today on Ag News Daily.
The North American market is a very different market, I like to say. It's pretty soybean and corn driven, so that's one big difference. In Europe, you would maybe see more cereals, so wheat would be the first crop, and a lot of diversification because of the density of people.
Well, welcome back to the weekly edition of the Ag News Daily Show. We are live on site at the Farm Progress Show 2024, recording our news a little bit earlier this week, Delaney.
We are, but we're still going to be action-packed. We've got a lot of good stuff to cover as we talk Farm Progress Show, weather, what's going on in the markets, and so much more.
And there's 3 hosts today on the show.
Woohoo!
Bringing in the excitement. So let's first start off with a little recap. While we were at Farm Progress Show this week in Boone, Iowa, we had some very hot weather. We had a few sprinkles to start off the week. There were multi-day risks of strong and severe thunderstorms due to that Midwest heat wave that we experienced. As that weather front continues to push through the weekend, we might see cooler and drier conditions for most of next week. We did get that thunderstorm warning for potentially a loadout time of the show this week, but we look over in the Ohio Valley, and the Mid-South remains one of the drier spots in this week's forecast. Overall, much of the United States is seeing above average temperatures as well, so that gives you a little idea of what we've been dealing with here, Delaney.
Well, we've also been talking to a lot of growers and folks about what conditions are looking like in the field. I think we're going to have a big crop is the sentiment that I'm seeing and hearing. 65% of the corn crop this week rated good to excellent across the top 18 corn-growing states, according to the latest crop progress report, down 2% from the week prior, yet higher than last year, where we were at just 56% this time of year. 67% of the soybean crop is rated good to excellent this week across those same states, slightly dipping from last week, and a little better than last year at 58% this time last year. USDA also reported on this week's crop progress report, 51% of the spring wheat harvested, up from last year's 31% of this time, and ahead of the 5-year average. So just a little insight there into what crops are looking like as we head into the final stretch of the growing season.
That's right. Michelle's still not going to let you talk, so we're going to talk about the U.S. Department of Agriculture recently announcing that they will be making indemnity payments to producers that are impacted by Hurricane Debby, located in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. Over $200 million under the Hurricane Insurance Protection Wind Index will directly help farmers and rural communities recover from those hurricane-related losses. The USDA's Risk Management Agency Administrator Marcia Bunger said that the hurricane caused devastating damage across the Southeast, impacting many agricultural operations, and says that the agency understands the importance of timely payments that will help producers overcome natural disasters and assist with recovery efforts. North Carolina is expected to have an estimated cost of $87.8 million of damage, followed by South Carolina at $54.3 million, and that tropical storm that hit Georgia causing damages of $45.6 million, and Florida, the one that got off the easiest there, $11.8 million, due to the damage from that tropical storm. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that.
Well, one headline we've been watching over the past week has been what's going on in Canada with their ongoing rail strikes. But over the weekend, the Canada Industrial Relations Board issued an order imposing a binding arbitration between the two parties, essentially meaning the two companies are going to lose their own abilities to negotiate for themselves. The Canada Industrial Relations Board is an independent third party that will consult both companies on how to move forward during this strike. In addition, the board ordered that no more rail strikes can occur during this arbitration process, now obligating more than 9,000 rail workers to stay on the job. Work resumed on Monday, August 26th on both the Canadian National and Canadian Pacific Kansas City network lines. While railroad workers have returned to the job, the Teamsters Canada Rail Conference has vowed to challenge this ruling by the Canadian board in court. So more to come there. But Michelle, we're finally going to turn it over to you. You've kind of been our behind-the-scenes person running all the things this week, getting out on the show grounds, seeing a lot of the cool stuff going on.
Yeah, this week at the Farm Progress Show in Boone, Iowa, there's 30-plus countries represented and an average of 2,000-plus acres in farmland. In addition to thousands of people were at the 2020 event, and we're seeing just like that here in 2024. We've interviewed a lot of people here on Ag News Daily. We're excited to share that here soon, but we heard from attendees and asked the question, what were they seeing or hoping to see at the Farm Progress Show?
I have seen some very innovative companies from the biological space to the equipment space. I've seen a lot of really hot, sweaty people, but generally speaking, people who are open-minded and willing to have a conversation. The purpose of it I'm here for is to meet potential customers and clients of our products in the United States of America.
So I'm looking at what's going to be coming on our farm in the next 20 years. So 20 years from now, the equipment that we see that's new in all the booths, that's what we're going to be getting. So I'm just excited to see what's coming 20 years from now.
We looked at the F11 combine and a bunch of the tight Case IH products. We came here to look at the Madon soybean headers, the flex drapers. Came here to look at some of the restoration products from my Abilene machine and some of the things that for restoring some of the tractors we got, and just all the on planter precision technology here, and boy, a lot of drone technology and planter technology, and it's obviously the world's changing in a hurry the way it looks in the agricultural world. So
the United States Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack was also here and talking to farmers this week at the Farm Progress Show. One point he mentioned was a new vaccination trial happening in cattle.
I know that there's a lot of interest in not only the biosecurity aspects of this challenge, but also the vaccine challenge. We have a number of companies that have been working on vaccine, and one company has now presented sufficient information to the USDA to allow me to authorize, what I did this week, the first field trial of a vaccine for cattle, H5N1, for safety purposes. It's the next step in the development of a vaccine, which hopefully we'll be able to develop near term with the information we give this field trial. That will allow us to determine whether we can go to the next level, next set of steps necessary to ensure safe and effective use of the vaccine.
During his remarks, he also shared more from his point of view with reference prices.
And that gets me to the farm bill. And I know that Chairman Thompson has exercised his enthusiasm and optimism for getting a bill done. I share that hope. But I think, frankly, we're going to have to get practical about this. We're going to have to make sure that we know exactly how much resource is available for new programs and expansion programs. And we're going to want to make sure that the programs and resources are fair. And I think the challenge with the reference price discussion is that there are obviously geographic differences between the level of support that a rice farmer would get under the reference price proposal, nearly $300,000 on average, and what a soybean producer here in Iowa would get, about $5,400. So I think there are some issues that have to be addressed and focused on. But once we get practical, I think it'll be easy for people to get in a room and hammer out the details, hopefully provide a security and stability and predictability that farmers need in order to be able to make plans now and into the future.
Trade was also another topic.
It's not surprising we have a trade deficit for the following reasons. One, we have the strongest economy in the world, by far, not even close, which means more things are happening here than there are anyplace else, which means that there is a somewhat declining demand for stuff in other places where the economy is strong. Number two, our exports to China have dropped significantly. There are reasons for that. They pay attention to what's being said and what's being done here in the country. I've had a chance to visit with the Chinese ambassador recently. I've had a chance to visit recently with the Chinese ag minister, and they are sensitive to the criticisms that they hear from the United States, and they're basically expressing that dissatisfaction in terms of the purchasing decisions that they make.
Vilsack also announced $35 million earmarked for various projects under the Fertilizer Production Expansion Program. So there's just a lot of fun things here at the Farm Progress Show.
Well, we're glad to have you out and about the grounds. While we're here at Farm Progress Show, our team has been doing a ton of great interviews, which we'll be bringing here over the next few weeks, talking to different organizations and companies, and we're excited to share them here on Ag News Daily. But Michelle, you actually had the opportunity to do a little ride and drive, get some of the behind the scenes at the Kubota booth earlier this week.
Yeah, and it was super fun. I did a ride and drive testing the Kubota RTV-X with Ross Chastain, a NASCAR driver and multi-generational watermelon farmer from Florida. And over the last 4 seasons, Chastain has logged 200-plus starts in NASCAR's top 3 National Touring Series. And just a busy driver, to say the least. He says his partnership with Kubota is meaningful to him as he not only uses them while on the farm, but allows him to use his platform to shine a bright light on agriculture. So let's take a look at that ride and drive.
I didn't even check. Have you ever driven one of these?
Not this
No?
brand.
Okay. Well, we're coming up on some bumps, so see
No.
how it handles it. But we, watermelons I didn't get to choose. They chose me. Racing was a hobby, so racing was something that my dad liked. They got me into it when I was 12 years old.
Wow. These bumps, this course?
Lots of bumps. I mean, for all the work, those are putting it through it.
So you haven't done this yet?
No, we're not.
Are these obstacles similar to what you have on the watermelon farm?
We're pretty flat,
Okay.
and we're very sandy. So our ground is all sand. So we're a lot smoother. We don't have speed bumps out in the middle of the field. So, and my dad loves his motor grader, so he wants all the roads always very smooth. He doesn't want any bumps or washouts. If it rains, he's out there grading or has my brother grading for him. So
Wow.
always keeping the road smooth.
Okay. Now
made
it's
it.
your turn.
It's my turn.
I'm excited to see how you'll ride this. I'm not good with vehicles, I guess you could say.
You could have told me that before we went around. Why did she wait until after?
I just know how to turn it on and off, and if my dad tells me it's good, that's what matters.
Yep. All right. Ready?
Okay, we're ready
All
to rock.
So, I've been driving things for as long as I can remember. At the farm, we had 4-wheelers, and my dad would actually let us drive old cars around the fields. We were really young, so been driving a long time.
So when did you start NASCAR? Why NASCAR?
Yep. So my first NASCAR truck race was in 2011. I was 18 years old, which was the minimum age then.
Wow.
And it was supposed to just be one bucket list thing we did. It was just going to be a
Bucket list thing.
It was an accomplishment to say we raced the local ranks and made it to NASCAR, and then that was over 500 starts ago. We've been racing since 2011. I've been racing every year.
Wow.
Now, where are you from?
I'm from Wisconsin.
Okay.
So I love cheese, cranberries, and so much more.
Yep.
Have you been?
I have. So we raced at Road America.
Okay.
And that's my favorite road course. I just raced there a couple of weeks ago with IMSA in the sports car series. Just because NASCAR doesn't go there anymore, I wanted to go, and so I found something else to race and an excuse to go up. So.
Well, thanks for driving and showing me a little bit of the ropes. I think you did a little better than me.
I don't know. I think you had a better lap time.
Too fun. Anything else that you want to add?
That's it. I could just take this and ride the rest of the show now. If we could get it out of this test track, I could just ride, not have to walk. That'd be nice.
I mean, you're the professional driver here, so.
Yeah, I don't think they'd let me, though. And we didn't hit a hay bale, so we're good.
Yeah.
No hay bales for Hart.
Wow. Gosh, what a fun adventure here with Ross, a NASCAR driver, and a lot of Kubota stuff here now that you're working with them a little bit. So thanks for joining.
We'll hear more from Kubota in another Ag News Daily episode, among with many other interviews. One of the interviews we had at the Farm Progress Show was with German farmer and the CEO of Horsch American subsidiary, Lucas Horsch. So let's jump into that interview right now.
We were joined today by Lucas Horsch, who is a German farmer and, of course, CEO of one of the most prominent brands in the space, the equipment space, Horsch American Subsidies. Lucas, thank you for joining us today on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me today.
I'm glad that you said he was a German farmer before we started, because if you didn't, I think the accent would give it away.
Okay, thank you.
So when did you get to Iowa? Did you fly in just this weekend?
Yeah, we just drove in. So we are basically, my wife is here, so we are basically traveling together as a family, and we are staying on the campground here in the park.
Oh yeah. So what other parts of your trip have you been? Did you go all across the U.S. or just come in for the show?
This week especially is just for the show, but we started to do, let's say, a big tour of all the basically the I states, I would say, and basically to learn a little bit about the agriculture here and to see it.
And I think, mentioning right off the top that you're a German farmer, Horsch is a German-based company, but you also have roots here in the U.S. as well. Give us a little bit of that background of the German heritage, but how you've transitioned into the U.S. market.
Okay. We are basically a German-based company. My father started the company 40 years ago. And, my father was here before he was starting to be a manufacturer. He was here in US and did an apprenticeship more or less for 1 year. And since then he was getting back into the home farm. He was the oldest. He was not getting the farm. So then he started basically a company. And then, let's say 25 years ago, we started with a partner here in North America. And since then, we're trying to make a footprint here.
So as you have been working towards that footprint, how has the American market been for Horsch?
I think in the last 25 years it was decent. I think we are still evolving the brand and so on. And since 2 years, I moved here with my family because, it was another time we were changing the manager and so on. And I was just saying, I was asking my wife if she was okay to move here. She was pregnant at the moment, so it was not very simple, but we moved here, and since then we're basically trying to build our position here.
I always find it super interesting to learn about the differences and maybe some of the very similarities we see in U.S. farming, Brazilian farming, German farming. When you look at the U.S. agriculture equipment market versus the German equipment market, what are some of those similarities and maybe differences that you've seen in transitioning more of your focus here to the U.S.?
Yeah, the North American market is a very different market. I like to say it's pretty soybean and corn driven. So that's one big difference. In Europe, you would maybe see more cereals. So wheat would be the first crop, and a lot of diversification because of the density of people. So I would say that's I would say a little bit the difference, and you would see a lot of corn who would be not used for ethanol. It would be more for biogas, and some things who would be similar on this side.
For me, it's fun to see the products that Horsch makes and the unique designs that you have. A lot of that's tailored to the way agriculture works outside of the U.S., but provides benefits to farmers like narrower transport and the ability to travel and work at higher speeds. How has Horsch taken the experience it has with European farmers and introduced that to American farmers?
I think the biggest difference from us to other manufacturers is that in the base, myself, I spent about 10 years on the farm. So in the end, we have our own farms. We still run farms ourselves, and we always try to learn it the hard way on ourselves. And it's not always easy to do it with customers, obviously. And I think through this, we basically build our own experience, and we always try to build simplified things, but still very efficient and very technology driven. But the simplicity and the durability, these are two things who are the most important for us, because this basically leads into efficiency.
That is one thing, Delaney, that I associate with the brand Horsch is the durability. They seem to be built very stout and very strong.
Yeah, I think our export market was basically in the 90s. The first export market was going into the east, into very big farms. And we have customers, they start on the 1st of April, they end of the 1st of May, and they plant 20,000 acres in between of it. So, you need to build a little bit different, and you have different challenges there.
The other thing I find so fascinating is friends with a really good German farmer who is the 15th generation to farm in Germany. That is so different than what we see here in the United States, where maybe you're seeing a 6th generation farmer at most in the United States. But I think that also ties back to what you mentioned, Lucas, about Horsch having such a deep tie into agriculture, still being farmers yourself. What has that journey looked like for your family's history of being farmers, and then at what point did they decide, hey, we think that there's more to give to the industry besides just being a farmer?
Yeah, it was very simple. My father didn't have any choices because he was the oldest on the farm, so he didn't have any choice to get the farm. So in our family tradition was always the youngest getting farm. So he needed to start it off somewhere. So I would say that's the perfect example there. And then later, when we evolve our business, my father was coming back into farming. He was starting to buy farms, but before that, we didn't have the capabilities. Yeah. So I think that's a little bit the explanation on a very simple way.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the simplicity also lends to the target of the high speed. You know, when I think of Horsch and their tools, especially your planter and your tillage, that is one of the main capabilities, is that factor you can go at a much faster pace. The simple design aids in that, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. I think a lot of farmers knows us through the Joker. I think, have you heard about the Joker?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so the Joker is a thing. Everybody knows us through tillage, but tillage was not our start. As we started, we started with the seeding technology of things, and we just over time it evolved into tillage, and speed, like you were starting to say it. I think it's a very, very big thing for us. So we were the first one in Europe to basically start with a high-speed seeder, what was not usual at that time. And 10-mile-an-hour seeding was not possible because you had power harrow seeders and so on, and we were the first ones coming into with a disc system and with a disc seeder who would be capable to do 10-15 miles an hour. And the same thing did evolve into our planting side of things. And you will see, we have today on our booth, you can see a planter where we basically started to sell here in North America, but we are already very, very deeply implemented in Europe. You can do up to 10, 12, 15 miles an hour if you want to, and still keep the speed without a planter falling apart.
Delaney, I know of some farmers that don't even drive 15 mile an hour when they're checking their crops on the road, let alone going 15 mile an hour in the field.
I like it, though. I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's I would say in perfect conditions. Yeah, you shouldn't do it in the no-till environment where everything is a little bit rolly terrain and so on. But I think if you're in a conventional farm and have a perfect finish, because high-speed planting doesn't start just with the plant on itself. You need to prepare your field, and everything needs to be even that you can get there.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So, Lucas, being here at Farm Progress Show, this is really the culmination of big equipment, powerful, durable, speed, all of those things come to mind when I think about Farm Progress Show. What kind of conversations or questions are you getting from growers this year at the show?
It's very interesting. We have a lot of more farmers who are looking into to basically upgrade, and they're looking for wider equipment. The challenge of labor is getting more and more critical. And you can tell that, okay, especially this year, you have some farmers getting out of business because of age and so on, and they have maybe not a size anymore. And this is, I think, the customer base who is now they want to have 80, 90 feet planters and things like this. And this is I think the next step where we will evolve ourselves in.
I was going to ask what you're most excited about coming down the future for Horsch.
Like I said, okay, the bigger planters is one part of thing. I think the most exciting thing for us is the spraying business. So the spraying business is in Europe for us, let's say, is a very big business. We are the biggest sprayer producer in Europe when it comes to high acreage and big capacity sprayers, self-propelled sprayers, and so on. And that's a very, very interesting market for us. Yep.
Tell us more about the spraying market in Europe compared to what you see as the future business here in the United States.
In Europe, it's a very diverse environment. So you have a lot of potato farmers, you have farmers who are just cropping and so on. So the variety of sprayers is very wide. So we have a high clearance sprayer with wide tracks, track spacing or
tire spacing.
Tire spacing, and on the other side you have narrow spacing for specialty crops. And we are now in the self-pulled market. We are very implemented into that. So we have different tank sizes. We are especially evolving in very big tank sizes. So we go up to 2,100 gallons of liquid capacities, and we have booms going up to 160 feet. So we are always going more and more trying to find a limit to what the technology can do.
I know the sprayer is extremely impressive when you stand next to it and look at the technology that's involved. Our podcast itself is excited to dive deeper into that technology because it's one of the highest ROIs on a farm. If you can cash and carry your chemicals, if you can control when the chemical gets applied, or if you have the ability to come in and do some fungicide or postseason apps, it can go a long ways to the profitability of a farm.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And a very important thing, I think, is when it comes to spraying is the quality of application, like you hit it. And I think we are one of the only suppliers, or let's say companies, who can basically run a boom 10 inches high and still run it at high speed. And that's just possible if you combine the boom to the chassis and the sensors all together. If you have all in hand, you can develop things like this. But it's not possible if you retrofit things, in our opinion. And the next thing is, resistance of weeds, resistance even in fungicides and so on. It's coming more and more, and the quality of application, and especially the variety of different products what we need to apply, and the way of cleaning the sprayer. To have an automated process what works well and quick, it's very important. And I think we are one of the only sprayer manufacturers who have, for just a small example there, we have two different pumps. So we have one pump who's just touching the chemistry, and we have one pump who's just touching the clean water. And I think that's a very important piece coming into it.
Well, that's great. We've had a fantastic opportunity to have a conversation in person with you, which is exciting. But if our listeners want to explore more about Horsch and the products that you have, how best do they do that?
Visit us on a farm show would be one thing. I think in the end you have the possibility always go through our dealer network. This would be another thing. But in the end, don't hesitate to contact us through our website or through whatever, and we are happy always to have the conversation even directly, because we are strong believers that dealer network is very important, but on the other side the direct connection to the manufacturer is one thing what is, I think, lacking in the North American market, and I think this is on this side where we want to shine.
Great. Well, Lucas, thank you so much for joining us again. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Really a great conversation with Lucas there. Exciting to see Horsch kind of setting new trends here in the American market, Tanner.
That's exactly right. But as we get into the end of the show, how did markets look?
Yeah, as we wrap up for the markets this week, tomorrow we hit the first notice day for September contracts. So we're certainly seeing some positions consolidate here heading into Friday's trade. Tomorrow is also the end of old crop marketing year for both corn and soybeans. But after a few days of some choppy trade this week in old and new crop corn, we're seeing a little green on the board as we head into that final trading session. The wheat complex has also been trading a few different fundamentals this week that seem to breathe some life into the markets, including the Argentinian drought, concerns over escalating situations going on between Russia and Ukraine, and a slightly smaller crop coming from Canada, according to the latest StatsCan report. So just a couple of market fundamentals here driving our week as we head into not only first notice day and a new marketing year, but also a holiday weekend with Labor Day right around the corner. So also, I think this is the first weekend of college football. Is that right? Am I right there,
That's
Tanner?
Right.
All right. So maybe some listeners will be kicking it cool.
It was week 0 last week. This is week 1.
I feel like week 0 seems not like a real week.
That's right. Well, it was certainly a real week for us here at the Farm Progress Show. It was great being able to have those interviews with the two of you, and I'm looking forward to sharing those with our audience. Don't you guys?
Absolutely. But folks can follow along with us on social media. Michelle's been doing some great stuff here to drive our social media channel. So if you missed any of our Farm Progress Show coverage, be sure to check out our social media accounts as we drop some continued content there. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter at Ag News Daily. But what do you guys say? We let the people go.
Let's let them go.